All right, guys, we're out on another mobile call on a 2006 Ford Escape 3.0 liter CD4E transmission. And the problem we're having is the left-hand half shaft is leaking fluid like crazy, the axle seal on the left-hand side of the transmission. So what I found is I pulled it all apart. You can see the axle shaft in the ground here, stuff like that. It's all apart. The bushing on the transmission is worn out. And it looks a little something like this. Now, it's not available from Ford. That's the big problem here. So I was able to find the correct bushing online from a trans shop, and we're gonna take it out, take the old one out, and we're gonna press this one into the driven sprocket on there today. Now, this is the same kind of failure that the 6F35 transmissions in the 09 and newer transmissions are having. Okay, so it's the same exact issue: bushing, seal wear, and the half shaft is getting damaged where it rides on there and gets supported by it. So there's no approved method for this, but today we're going to go in there and we're going to try a few things out. I think I have the right tools here to do it, and we can get it done and get it back on the road. Now, the approved method for this is to replace that driven sprocket that it's actually pressed into, and that requires splitting the transmission, pulling it out, splitting the transmission, replacing that hard part. So we're going to try to do it in car today. Now, this is what I'm talking about right in here. Let me get you in here even closer. You can see that bushing in there right here, okay? It's just worn inside of there. You can see it's all black and it's chewed up inside of there and stuff like that. It's pretty much paper thin compared to the new one also. And that is the driven sprocket that goes to the chain for the rest of the clutch packs and the other side of the transmission. So this actually directly splines to the final drive or the differential inside of there. And our half shaft passes through there to the differential. So that's where it rides and gets supported, and once it gets sloppy in there and chewed up like that, the half shaft kind of goes up and down a little bit as you're driving down the road, and fluid just pours out. So you can see it leaks pretty darn good when this happens. So it's something to check whenever you have a axle seal leak in a CD4E on the left-hand side. So let's get to it and see if we can change this out for this customer today. Okay, so now the very first thing I'm going to do, and I'm going to note on here, is that there is a notch right here, and I don't feel anything as far as a fluid passage, pressure passage, or anything like that. So I'm not sure what this notch is for exactly, besides maybe a discharge on there. But we're going to go ahead and note the position of this notch right here into the driven sprocket. So what we're just going to try to do is make some kind of mark, like a scratch awl or something like that, right there. Now, the other thing I'm going to do is take a depth measurement on here. And what I'm using is something like this, a digital caliper with a depth measurement end to it. .24. So let's go with 2.25 on there. Now comes the fun part. We need to actually pull this out of here, and I have a tool that's supposed to go behind these and expand and come out and kind of pull out a slide hammer. There's no space behind here to do that though. So what we're gonna do is put some paper towels in here, because this is a nice smooth bore in here with no holes or places for chips to go. And the same thing with the outside here. Nothing, okay? Really can't go nowhere. So what we're gonna do is use a cloth like this, paper towel, and we'll just push it into the rest of the driven sprocket and the right there. We're just past it right there. Okay, so that's nice and tight in there. And if there's any chips that go flying that way, of course, like I said, this is all captured inside of here. There's no holes, and then this will not allow it to go any further. When you pull it out, it's going to pull everything this way. Okay, so now we need to crush this in, and you can use like a small chisel or something like that, but I found a tool online. It's called the bushing splitter and seal remover. It's got a weird tip to it there, and it's angled. So I'm going to try that today, and we'll see how well this works. The idea is just to kind of deform it and collapse it. So we'll get it right in the edge there. And it shouldn't be too hard to do, as long as I can get in here and get it done. Get an angle. Okay, so I see what it's doing. It's kind of just spreading it, and we're chipping away at it, and we're riding along the housing, the hard part, the driven sprocket. So if we go all the way through, what that'll basically do is tear it away. And release the tension of the bearing in there at the bushing. I see. Awesome little tool. Awesome little tool for this job. And it's got a, you know, a rounded edge on here almost. So it's not like a chisel. So it shouldn't damage that hard part. I like that it has an angle to it here. It really helps me out in this tight area here. Got a little chunk right there for the heck of it. Let's get it out of here. Toss in our pan. So basically it's a process. Take your time. Don't get frustrated. Like I said, once this baby puts a slit in it, basically, it's going to relieve the tension of that bushing. Let me see. Pretty darn close to the end here. Nice little tool. This thing is paper thin. I know this is boring, but let's do it live. See what I can do here. It is a little tight in here. I'm trying to fully split it. Right there, it hit a hard part, so we stop. I might have to do it again on the other side, so let's do that. That baby's pretty loose in there. I don't know. Let's try this seal remover here and see if we can get it out. Sure can. Seal remover. It works. Now that the tension's gone. And the part that's in there is pretty hard. So I'm not too worried about scratching, especially because there's not really a leak point either. I'm not even trying, look at that. I better fix it because this is the golden moment right here when it comes out. Now it's coming out so easy. That's actually the time to start being really careful with the case here and paying attention to that because it is coming out. Let's try it on this side because the top side was a no-go. See it coming out there? So I'm gonna alternate because this thing already is split. So I don't necessarily have to even it out from the top there. And there it is. Okay. So that was the hardest part. Now the other piece of good information I just found out is that there is an actual step behind here. So this sucker is going to go in there and dead stop, which is good. Look at this thing. It's thin, chewed up. Now what I'm going to do here, because there is a hole right here, there's a hole that goes into the transmission where the fluid that spills out past here can drop down to and go back in the trans. So what we're going to do is try to avoid that at all costs from these metal chunks or shavings that are left. There isn't much left. So we're going to kind of grab them with our rag and get them out before anything happens here. Now there's a fluid hole right here. Okay, so we're good to go. Nothing's blocking anything. Just a small hole right here. Good to go. Okay. There's only big chunks in there. That's the good thing about the bearing splitter. Bushing splitter, it'll actually, you know, shave off these bigger chunks instead of the smaller ones. Okay, look at that, nice and clean. Let me clean this before we pull our wad out of there. Okay. And now we're gonna, we look good, we look good. Let's go ahead and get this out of here. And this is the idea. It's so packed in there. When you pull it out, it's gonna clean the walls as it comes out too. Look at that. Wow. So you could see right here, this is that driven sprocket that's inside of there, okay? And here's the case, and there's a bushing right here that supports this. And then this bushing we just took out supports the shaft, because you can see it goes way down in there before it ever splines with the transmission. Well, the differential. It's inside of there. So right now we're clean, we're good to go. This thing has a dead stop on it. Okay, so we're going to be able to press that one in there perfectly, and it's going to dead stop on there. A little brake clean on a rag, and we'll clean the surface that we are pressing it onto, because I'm going to actually use a retaining compound that I'll list everything down below, the parts I'm using, the tools I'm using, the compounds I'm using, so you guys know what you need going in. Now, the bushing part number is 96060. And they look exactly the same, of course. That little notch in there, you can see it right there. The grooves and all that stuff in there for the oil to sling it around in there. We just need to line that notch up on there, and we can start pressing it in. Now, what I did is I bought a couple of these just for different jobs, but also in case you ruin one. Get it cocked in there, you chunk it off, something happens. Just get a couple, like a couple dollars a piece. Now, the tool that I'm going to use is from OTC. It's not made for this. It's actually used for installing seals on the transfer case for this particular vehicle, but it has a nice little step back here. So what that's going to allow me to do is to drive this in with a driver handle and you can see it's supported all the way around. And it's pretty close on there. Okay, we can get started going into there as far as we can. Then what I found is that a 1-inch socket from Craftsman, okay, 6.3H drive deep, is the exact same size as this bushing. So we can use it to finish driving it in. Then, since we saw it was recessed a little bit, even though I think there's a chamfer on there, what I found is a 5/16 Craftsman, 12 point, that's what I have anyways, 15/16 socket, 1/2-inch drive, is just a slight bit smaller than the bushing outer diameter. So we can use it and still have good contact in there to get into here and press it in till it stops. Now the retaining compound that I'm using on the outside of the bushing, the outside diameter of the bushing, is the Loctite 648. And this is the same stuff that's specified for the 6F35s now on their bushings when we're installing them, which is the same idea, supporting the shaft. So I'll take Ford's word for it and use this. What this does is basically it's made just for press fit items. And it's a little extra glue that'll stay in there and keep it from spinning in the bore. Something like that. Okay, now the inside of this driven sprocket is clean. Our bushing is, of course, brand new. We're going to make sure the bushing faces this way with that little notch facing towards us. I'm going to put it onto my tool, and then we're just going to tap it with a 1-pound hammer like this, a little ball peen, 1-pounder, just so we can get it set straight as possible. Now, because this is such a close fit, it will self-center in there, you know, but you want to still drive it in as close as possible. So we get it nice and level and all that. Okay, so that's pretty darn close to that. We are going in even all the way around, and I'm going to use this for as far as I can go. I think we're going to have to use the sockets either way to finish the job out here. You shouldn't need much more than this, so a 1 pound should be all you really need. So, since we're going in nice and straight, we'll just continue. It is tight in here because of the strut. You want to hit it straight. The top's going a little too much, and the bottom is not. So again, make sure. That's why you want to keep stopping like that. Really make sure. So we'll go ahead, get the top in. There we go. It's nice and even once again. And you just keep going. We saw before it was recessed about 2¼ millimeters. And once you get it in so far like this, you can see, even with it not perfectly straight, when I'm hitting it, it's still going in straight at this point and even. So just patience. You want to do this once, you want to do it right. looking good still. There she goes, almost flushed out. Once it is flushed out, we're going to have to change over. I just heard it change in tone, so that means we need to change the our driver here. I can feel behind here, slight gap. So let's go to the 1" here. It's starting to go a little more. And the bushing still looks real nice. I'm gonna go a little bit more. Maybe I'll hear a change in tone. I know we're bottomed out in there. Looks pretty darn even. Let's take a measurement. Let's take a measurement. Okay, so that one's about 2.25. We were getting something like that earlier. Nice and straight. Yep, that looks good too. Let's check it up top here. Nice and straight. Yep. This is the ultimate test right here. You can feel a lot with your fingers. When I run it along here, and you can feel if one side's out further than the other. Overall, I'd say I'm pretty darn happy with this. The way it came out and the way it went in. About what I expected. Okay, so we're all cleaned up. The bushing is in. What we're gonna do is take this fluid that's right here and clean, and we're gonna lubricate that bushing. Just like so. And at this point, the bushing is installed. A few basic tools, and you can save yourself thousands. Don't let a trans shop tell you you must pull the trans. You saw me do it in vehicle. I get this question a lot. This is the first one I've truthfully come across, and we just did it together in about 15-20 minutes. Done. Now at this point, of course, you just put your new seal in, your new CV shaft, because the old one's worn at that point on there. You don't want to ruin the new bushing, and then just reassemble at that point. So hopefully this helped you guys with this repair, so you can get your Escape back up and running. Okay, now I know this is a really bad angle, but it's the best I can do. What I wanted to show is what the normal movement is of the CV shaft. Now this is the new CV shaft and new bushing installed, new seal, it's all done. And I'm gonna go up and down with it, give you an idea. So you can compare to yours. I mean, this one's barely moving. It's got a slight give to it, which is normal. Okay, it's gonna be some slop in there. I mean, you can barely even tell it's moving. That is how it should be. Nice and tight in there. So if yours is flopping around, that's not normal.